Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nutrition Coach Pharmacist YouTube/blog/podcast. I am your host, Amy K. Wilson, the Nutrition Coach Pharmacist, which I like to say your Nutrition Coach Pharmacist. And I am elated, excited, just jumping out of my skin because I got a guest today, and her name is Dr. Peggy Malone. I would say most of that, I don't know, most privilege. I don't know. I had the privilege to be on her podcast and we had such a great conversation. And if you haven't checked out her podcast, it's the Midlife Improvement Podcast. And we talked about fitness and nutrition, which is, of course, my wheelhouse. But not only is fitness and nutrition important, it's also your mindset, your behaviors, and how you view midlife, which is what she is going to talk about today. Because I honestly believe you have to have the nutrition, the fitness, and the mindset to go further, to be your best self. So I am excited the fact that I'm not going to do all the talking today. And Dr. Peggy is going to do a lot of talking today. So welcome, 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 Dr. Peggy. I'm so excited to have you. Can you just tell everybody who you are, what you do, and let's go from there?
Perfect. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Amy. Well, my name is Dr. Peggy Malone. You can call me Peggy. That's fine. I am a healthcare provider turned life coach. And when I say it like that, I still do work as a chiropractor. So I do have some healthcare provider hats that I wear sometimes. I am also the host and the creator of the Midlife Improvement Project podcast, which I've been doing since 2018. And it started off just being the improvement project because I was interested in habits and routines and helping people to just take on anything that they could take on so that they could be better as a human and as whatever role they were playing in their life. And then since then, I've come into my midlife years. So I just turned 50 in 2023. And as a result, I've been going through some challenges of my own. And I thought maybe some people might be interested in hearing about them for their own midlife transition. And so the podcast transitioned with it, and it is now called the Midlife Improvement Project. So I work with women who are in this midlife time, who really are trying to figure out who they are now and who they want to be as they grow up and as they come into the years that are amazing past 50. So that's like the short story.
So let's talk about that. What do you find going back to our 20s and 30s, 40s, and now we're in this second stage of our life, second chapter, midlife, whatever we're calling it now. What are you seeing? What are people feeling, or are we having that midlife crisis that we always heard about when we were growing up?
Well, I think probably a lot of people might consider it a crisis, and maybe it is that in some people's minds. I prefer to see it and consider it and define it as an awakening. Or I had a guest on on my show recently who she talked about it as a liberation. So when you think about back to when you were in your teens, a lot of us wanted to please our parents and we wanted to do what we were supposed to do. We wanted to do all the right things. So we checked the boxes. We were like, okay, I'm going to go to university. And then after that, I'm going to go and do the next thing. And then I'm going to get married. And then I'm going to have kids. And then I'm going to have the white picket fence and do all the things. And then you take care of all of these other humans and your job and you do all the things, checking the boxes as you go. And something magic happens when we get to this time of life when all of those responsibilities are potentially starting to change so that we have more time to actually reflect and become self-aware and then actually think to ourselves, did I actually want to do any of this? And if you did, amazing. But if there's some pieces of it where you're like, I just did this because I thought I should, now is the time when you can decide intentionally, what do you want to do from now on? Now is when I can decide, what do I want to be when I grow up? I'm 50 years old. What do I want to be when I grow up? And then we can start to move into what that looks like for the next half of your life, the second half, the best half.
I know I see with my clients a lot of guilt at this time because they were so used to taking care of others that they think they still need to be in that mode of taking care of everybody else and not knowing how to break from that. What do you tell your clients?
Well, one of the things that I like to share with clients is that, and with my listeners on the podcast, is that There is a study that was done where they took a group of women and they gave them 5 things to prioritize. And this is the order of priority that they put them in: their children, their pets, their elderly parents, their significant other, and then finally the fifth thing was themselves.
Mhm.
So what I like to say is being a caregiver is amazing. And obviously our culture would not work if there wasn't caregivers. And generally speaking, women do this job more often and they do it very well. So I don't want to take away from that when I let my clients and I let women know that when you put yourself first, everyone around you benefits. If you put yourself to the top of that list instead of the bottom of the list, something magic happens where your world can open up and you can get your needs met and everyone around you can get their needs met. And it doesn't have to be either or. Everybody can get their needs met and everybody can have like a beautiful time. As soon as we put ourselves at the bottom, then we're creating a situation where we're going to burn out and we're going to be resentful and we're going to be tired and we're going to be all of those things. As soon as we are at the top of the list, everybody else gets the best of us. And then that can create this magic time in our lives. The cool part about this time of life is women are starting to, instead of just running the program and doing it on autopilot, they're starting to go, oh, like I never even knew that it was possible for, it not to be an either or. I can have what I need and so can my people around me.
And I know well, of course, we're both coaches, so I'm a big proponent of getting help. And I think sometimes women think they can do it on their own, where they might need somebody like you to direct them and to help them break through the guilt, through thinking that everything that they're doing is selfish. How do you explain to them that this is not a selfish thing, that taking care of them is a good thing?
Yeah, I think it's a tough one. I think some of this relates to how we've been conditioned that we have to do everything perfectly. And so when we're not doing it perfectly, that fate that comes into some of the guilt that we're feeling. But it's the difference between all or nothing and all or something. So if we're at a place where we have had a burst of self-awareness and recognize that we should be doing something different, and we're just not quite sure how to do it, but we want to do it ourselves, then we can do just the tiniest little thing. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We don't have to do all the things all at once, which is sort of how we're conditioned to do things. We Getting help can be the thing that's going to allow for you to just take little baby steps. But even without help, just knowing that if you do a little bit of something, it's going to help you to gain momentum. And you don't have to do everything all at once. Just do a little bit of something and then just add on it from there. None of us get to being any identity or any role or any version of ourselves without having to go through a bunch of versions of it before we got there. We didn't just decide one day, now I'm this, and then get there the next day perfectly.
So are you telling people to find their inner fire, what's pulling them, or what is their inner desire? Like, I know you play basketball, you do gymnastics, which I just think is just OMG. I'm like, wait, you're 50 and you're doing backflips. Okay. You know, I know someone's listening going, oh, I'm not doing that. But maybe there's something that they've been wanting to do and there's an inner fire that they want to listen to. They just don't know how to.
Yeah, so I think probably one of the things that can be helpful here is because here's something to consider. We're women who are going through perimenopause and menopause right now. So we're coming to the other side of being women who cycle, right?
Mhm.
And if you think back to a time when you were a tiny girl, before you started menstruating, before you started cycling, there's something magic about what was happening in her brain, about what she got lit up by, what she wanted to be when she grew up, what she found exciting. And if you can tap back into that version of you, sometimes you can find the seeds of what's going to light you up now. So if you liked to draw then, or if you liked to play sports then, or if you liked to, hang with your friends or do whatever it is that you did at that time in your life, you can tap into the magic of that time before we went through these, 30 some years of womanhood being the menstruators. And then now we're in a space where we're like, wait, I've kind of got this brain again that is like post-menstrual and it's similar to my premenstrual brain. What do I want to do that she wanted to do? And you can tap into that. So I don't necessarily think that you have to go snowboarding or do back handsprings or play basketball. That's what I loved to do then, and that's what I want to do now. And I do want to add something to that about what I'm doing now. But I think whatever it was that you wanted to do then, just get into that place where you can like have that childlike awe or excitement about something and then tap into that. The other thing that I want to add is a lot of times when our culture sees, and I think probably this, I was guilty of this before I got to this age, you sort of think of women in their 50s as, oh, okay, like there's these women in their 50s, and then you just don't consider them, right? Because we all become sort of invisible after that age culturally. And we have this cultural idea that it's just like downhill after that. Like that's the end. Once you turn 50, it's like you might as well not exist anymore. And I want to counter that by saying, no, thank you. I'm doing all the stuff I want to do. I've surprised myself that I am getting better at snowboarding every year for the last decade as I approach 50. I can still do gymnastics. I can still play basketball. I can still do the things that I never thought would be possible for people who are like, quote, old. When I was 20, when I was 40, when I was any age up until now, I never considered that I could still do these things. And I'm pumped that I can. And I want to tell all the people who are younger than me, if you have this dream that you want to do something, whether it's go back to school or learn a new language or learn how to play an instrument or go snowboarding or do whatever it is you want to do, then you should do it. Because it's not like you're going to be like, oh, I'll do it in the next life. Maybe you're not getting a next life. Let's do it now.
Yeah, I think you're so right, especially after 50. I think some people just feel like they're not viable anymore. That, oh, now it's get my rocking chair and this is what is expected of us. I'm done. But I love the fact that you say go back to your childhood, because we all had those dreams and hopes of little girls of what we wanted to do and what we played with. And I think we put that on the back burner because we think that's not responsible.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we get into
And I
that
would counter, yeah,
responsible. Yeah, we get in that
responsible. And
response.
I would counter that with according to who?
Yeah.
Yeah, we get to decide what is responsible and who according to who.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And I think once we get into our midlife, there's not the parents there anymore. There's not the expectations. I think it's the expectations that we box ourselves in.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
And so what do you do with somebody who is once they break free, but they have that rigidity that they haven't been able to think outside the box. They're so wrapped up in being responsible, but they want to break free and they want to have this amazing life. And they know that a lot of their behaviors or negativity are their own roadblocks, their own voices in their head. How do you talk them out of that?
Well, I think probably the way that I'd start with clients who are in this space where they know enough that they know they want to change, and they've got some of this conditioning and roadblocks, as you say, that they've got in the way. So we kind of go back to first principles and we do an exercise where we get curious about what they value. We go right back to what are your values? So your values can shift through your lifetime. So what you valued at 20, you might not value anymore, but you're just on the autopilot of I value this, 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 and this. So when we like actually get curious and intentionally take a look at what are the things that are the most important to you now and as you move forward, sometimes there's a lot of surprises that come up for people. So I usually will give people like a list of a bunch of different values. And if you're not sure what I mean by this, it's things like, I'll just give you some examples like curiosity, authenticity, freedom, giving back, uh, collaboration, simplicity. Like those are some examples of values that people might have in life. And these can be anything that you want. But a lot of times people will not even have considered what their values are first. And then second, once you know what the values are, because you're like, oh yes, this resonates with me, then you can like take a look at your life and set it up beside your values and see if it's aligned. See, am I actually living my life according to what I actually have just told myself is important? And if I'm not, how can I get curious about that? Number one. And number two, how can I then intentionally move towards creating a life that aligns with these values that I've said are important to me? And a good example of this is a lot of times when you ask people what they value, they'll say, I value family, I value connection, I value simplicity. And then you say, okay, what's happening in your life? Well, they're working too hard, so they never ever see their family, or they see them rarely. They are not connected because they're always on their phone. And their life is not simple because they're adding a bazillion things to it all the time and never creating any boundaries. So then when you point this out to people, sometimes they go, oh, okay, if it's true that I value family, how can I intentionally add something into my life so that I am creating an alignment with that value? So this is a really great exercise for people to do. The other piece I do with this is sometimes when people are looking through a list of values, they'll go, yes, 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 yes. And then there'll be a few that they're like, ooh, no, that one, I don't like that one. So like, for example, when I was going through this exercise fairly recently, there's a value leadership. And my brain kind of gets the ick about it. I'm like, okay. So what was told to me by a coach, and which I now pass on to my clients, is if you get the ick about any of these values, you need to immediately get curious about why. Because when I think about the life I want to create, leadership is a value that would be a helpful and important value for me to have aligned. And because I got the ick about it, I'm like, oh, this is important for me to recognize that I can grow into any value that I'm seeing as part of my future self. So two things when we go back to your original question. First of all, get curious about what do I actually value? See if it's aligned with my life, and then see what values do I potentially want to be able to grow into as I think about what I want to go towards with my goals for the future. And then this alone can create a ton of different roads we can go down in terms of starting to work on our personal growth as we become that version of ourselves that we want to be.
I love the curiosity because I think sometimes with curiosity, once again, our responsibility gene, hello, type A, oldest child syndrome right here.
Yeah.
And, you're just like, oh, well, that's just being irresponsible. And I should just, keep doing what I'm doing. And I love the fact of curiosity because I think sometimes we don't allow ourselves to be curious. Do you find that quite a bit?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think probably I often like to, because I'm a bit of a science nerd and you'll appreciate this,
Yeah.
I like to tell people about that part of their brain that's their lizard brain. It's that part of your brain that's always telling you, you might die, and it's trying to keep you safe. But it does so in a way that it creates some drama for us. So here's an example of what I mean. If I am somebody who is never curious about something, I might want to feel safe by just judging it or being critical of it.
Mm.
And the reason that I'm being critical of it and judging it is because that part of my brain, thousands of years ago, when I lived in a tribe of only 100 people, I had to like look around and decide what was a threat and what might threaten my ability to stay safe in the tribe. And that's why I'm very critical and judgmental of things that I don't understand. So my brain is saying, you might die and you're going to get banished to the woods outside of your tribe. So then now I can back up for a second and be like, wait a minute, it's 2023 or 2024. And I do not have to worry about the fact that I'm going to be banished from the tribe. Instead of being critical and judgmental of the things around me that might affect my well being, I can actually just get curious about them. And once you're curious and you approach with empathy, then that changes everything. It allows for growth. It allows for you to come out of the tribe of only 100 people and like come out into the wide world and do whatever you want.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that because that was just going back in my head. It's like, okay, that safe, comfy spot sometimes causes us more harm than we realize. Whether it's nutrition or fitness or whatever, it's that safe, comfy spot just kind of keeps us from doing the things that we need to do, even though we know we need to do it. I know I always see in my clients, there's certain steps or there's certain things that they come to you with, and it's a good majority of the same. What do you see with your clients when they come to you? Is what are they looking for, and then what are some of those steps that everybody gets hung up on?
Well, a lot of them have specific goals in mind. So it could be a health or a fitness goal. It could be a career goal. It could be a relationship goal. And the things that they often get hung up on are, I have found, and maybe you found this too, the people that reach out are often type A people that are looking for a gold star. They're looking for validation from coach, right? So I have them get curious about it because they'll say, did I do it right? Like, am I doing it perfectly? And I'm like, okay, let's get curious about, does it matter if you're doing it
Yeah.
perfectly? And also sometimes I have to be like, good job, gold star, because they need it. And I'm the same. I'd be like, I want the
Mhm.
gold star. But it just, I'm getting the gold star and I'm offering it to them, but I'm also giving them an opportunity to notice when they're looking for the gold star. We don't have to do everything perfectly, and we don't have to care about what other humans think of us in order for us to have a fulfilled and amazing life. This is another example of that lizard part of your brain. When I'm in the tribe, if I look around and everybody thinks I'm cool and everybody likes me, I'm likely to stay safe in the tribe and I'm not going to get banished to the woods, which is why I'm always looking for the gold star. I want to make sure I'm fitting in and everybody likes me, and then I'm getting my gold star, and then I'm not going to die. So we do a lot of work around what other people are thinking. We do a lot of work around, we don't necessarily need validation from other humans if we are aligned with our core values and moving towards the goals in the way that we want.
Do you think that validation, I mean, we have it with growing up, the validation from our parents, the validation from the clique, the other girls. Do you think once we get to midlife, we're like, you know what? Peace out. I don't need that validation anymore. And maybe that's why we're able to grow a little bit better. Do you see that more, that people are able to let that validation part go?
Yeah, 100%. And also it's in evolution in that as our estrogen declines, estrogen is a connection hormone, right? So it
Mhm.
allows for you to caregive your children. It allows you to connect with the tribe to make sure everyone's safe. As you get older and your estrogen drops naturally, then now you become the wise elder because you don't care as much what other people think, and you're able to be the wise elder and offer advice. So I think it's naturally supposed to happen, but we have been so conditioned in our culture to care what other people think that even if it's supposed to naturally happen, we're still really caught up in it. So it's just a really nice time of life to remind yourself that now I get to decide. I can decide if I care about what other people think. And if there's a certain amount of people in my life that, yes, their opinion matters to me, that's different than worrying about what, the cashier at the grocery store thought of me, because we spend time thinking about it.
I want to bookmark that because we're so trained now in multimedia, whatever, menopause is a bad thing. Decreasing estrogen is a bad thing. And, here you're saying that, you know what, maybe the decrease in estrogen actually finally liberates us from having to care so much about what other people think or be validated by them. And the decrease in estrogen might actually be freeing us when we thought that that was a bad thing, and to realize menopause is actually a good thing instead of just like, oh my gosh, I'm losing my estrogen and it's causing me this and this, but it's actually saying, hey, I can say peace out without any remorse. And I think that's very liberating.
So the cool part about this is that when I first started going through all the symptoms associated with perimenopause, I was like, why? What is the reason? Like, I want to know because my brain's a nerd. What's the evolutionary reason for this? And this is the only thing that makes sense to me, because otherwise, why would we lose our bone mass and our like skin plasticity, our joints being like happy and healthy? Why? And all of the other symptoms that go along with it. Why? Like, why would we have bad sleep? The reason is apparently, I guess, according to evolution, so that we can get to this place where we are transitioning away from the identity and the role that we had as mother and connector and whatever to like wise elder. So I think that there's, especially because we have the advantages of modern day medicine and culture, we can still maintain our estrogen levels, but also recognize that this is the time when we can decide on purpose with our higher prefrontal cortex to go, no, no, I can decide on purpose that I am going to care less about what other people think.
Yeah. So once again, I'm like, this is where nutrition, fitness, and life coaching comes like all full circle, because nutrition and fitness is going to help with the bone mass and everything else. But the coaching saying, hey, I can be me. And to me, that's just so freeing to say, this is who I am, and to live our next best life. And to me, that's just like, I love aha moments. And to me, that was just an aha moment. I'm like,
I love
oh,
it. I love it. Me too.
perfect.
Pass it on.
Perfect.
Tell the others.
Perfect. So let's talk about, I know you're part of it is, hey, let's slow down, not necessarily the aging process, but how we see aging.
Okay. So,
And yeah, can you talk a little bit how you do that? And you know, you'll explain it better than I can.
okay, so one of the things I love to talk about, I think this is what you're getting at,
Yeah.
is that every adult that I have ever had a conversation with talks about the fact that there's this phenomenon that life speeds up as we get older. Have you
Yes.
experienced this? Yes. So everyone has. So if we go back in time to when we were tiny children, time seemed really took forever. Like imagine it was like, a drive to your grandparents' house seemed like it took forever when it was 15 minutes. Your summer holidays seemed to go on for years because they were so long. And then as we've gotten older, time's speeding up like mad. So apparently this is actually, if you want to go to the science of why this happens, monotony, which is what happens as we get older, because it's Monday and then you like go to work and then you do the same thing and you make dinner and then you make dinner and then you wake up and you take out the garbage and you pay the mortgage and then it's Monday again. And then every week's the same and it's often stressful. When you were a kid, every concept, every idea, every sight, everything was 100% brand new all the time. Your brain was always getting novelty. And now we are in the monotony of life. So monotony, um, like collapses time, meaning it like just keeps on going faster and faster, whereas novelty unfolds time. It allows it to slow down. So there's actually a study that was done, I think in 2004. It's called the oddball effect. And basically what happened is they took this group of participants and they showed them on a screen a picture of a shoe. And then they showed it to them over and over and over again. And then they showed them a picture of a flower just once. And most of the participants in the study thought that the flower was on the screen for longer than the shoe. And it was actually the exact same amount of time. And so there was the novelty of the flower. And all of a sudden, the brain went, wait a minute, something's new, and took in a lot more information. And so, because it was processing more information, then our perception of time slowed down. So, this is like the tiny piece of what we can actually take advantage of when you go out into the world as a human who's just been doing them, excuse me, has been doing the monotony of life, you can use this information to slow down your perception of time as you get older. And the way you do it is by adding something new. So, a good example for my husband and I, when it was my 50th birthday, we did this big adventure for a few weeks where we went snowboarding and we did all sorts of stuff. And we were away for only like a few weeks, but it seemed like a few months because every single thing my brain interacted with and saw for that period of time was new. And I was taking in all sorts of new information and my brain was processing it slower. And some people have probably had this experience when they are on a vacation or when they're doing something brand new, they notice that time slows down. And the thing that like sometimes will add to this is if you add adrenaline to the situation, then it makes it seem even slower. So people that have been through like life-threatening things like a car accident or a natural disaster will often say that it seemed like everything was happening in slow motion. And this goes back to that lizard part of our brain. Your brain is very good at keeping you alive and deciding and looking for threats. So anytime something very threatening is happening to you, your brain will slow down processing of it so it can look around for every opportunity to try and find a way to survive. And that's the extreme. So that's why time slows down in stressful situations. But in us just taking an advantage of this in order to slow down time so that our life just doesn't speed by, first we add novel things. And second, if we add something that's a little exciting or something that adds a little bit of adrenaline, it will make it go even slower. So in my mind, this is why I love to snowboard and this is why I love to do gymnastics. I'm adding adrenaline and it slows time down for me. The other thing that's really cool about this is as soon as you add some adrenaline to a situation, your brain basically is saying, I might die. I'm doing something a little unsafe. And so it's very focused and very present. So this technique of doing something new, especially something that's a little nerve-wracking, will bring you very much into the present. And any of us who have been doing personal growth work forever know that being in the present is the goal.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you there because somebody like me, this is DNA. I've had my DNA done. No damn well. It's not that I like comfort. is that I am not a thrill seeker. That's not in my DNA. There's CompT, there's all these other things. And there's people who absolutely love, entrepreneurs love that thrill. So for somebody like me who is not going to go snowboarding
Yep.
or do a backflip, likes to stay in their comfort zone, but still wants time to slow down or experience. I'm not against the experience thing, but I'm the getting close to death. No. so, so for
So
somebody who's like me, what would you suggest?
So what I would say is for somebody like you, then you can use this to your advantage with even more like effect because you don't have to do as much craziness in order to get the effect because your brain's going to like look for threats immediately. So just doing something different, like taking a new way home from work, like on a new route, or brushing your teeth with your other hand, or when you go to leave the house, getting intentional about which shoe do I put on first? Sometimes people always put the same shoe on first and they've never thought that they do. Just getting present for a minute and being like, I always put my left shoe on first. I'm going to put my right shoe on first. Now we've created novelty. It's going to slow down time because your brain's going to be like, wait, this is new. Is this a threat? I just have to pay attention. So when you're in a place where you don't want to go straight to the thrill seeking, then you can get this effect just by adding anything new. But you could also like think about just talking to a stranger or like having a hard conversation. These are ways that we're going to bring a bit of adrenaline in. And these are things that all humans do, even when they love to be comfortable, or they're a way that we can induce that same effect.
So it's really just getting out of the everyday monotony, the same thing over and over. I almost like Groundhog's Day.
Yes. Yes.
It's being present in the moment and taking advantage of those maybe things that we don't think about, or maybe things that we ignore, and actually maybe it's holding a door for somebody that you normally don't do. Maybe you're so focused that you just go into the store. Well, maybe it's holding the door for somebody or doing something that's out of the norm for your normal everyday. I love that. I think that is so doable for anybody. And especially for somebody who's like me, who's not a thrill seeker, but still wants that adrenaline rush, still wants to slow down time. Because like you're right, it's like 16 took forever, 18 took forever, 21 took forever. And then after that, it was like, where
Yeah.
did
I was
time
I was
go?
19 5 minutes ago and now I'm 50. So here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so as we wrap this up, because we talked about a lot of things, what are your, I guess, three big takeaways to midlife women to whether it's slow down time, live their best life? What are your three kind of big things that you want to make sure that they understand?
I think number one is like getting present and getting a little bit self-aware, and then just recognizing that you get to decide what you want to do next. So that's number one. Number two, once you've decided that I want to do something different than this, getting clear on where do I want to go? Like, what are my goals? What lit me up when I was a tiny child that I might want to do now? And then number three, like seeing if your life aligns with the things that you're saying are important to you, because I think that those are the things that will allow us to then intentionally move forward with the goals and the dreams that we have for ourselves in this second half. And it's going to be awesome. Like, don't buy into the idea that it's downhill after this. The only way that's true is if you're riding a snowboard.
I love that. This has been a freaking amazing conversation that I think I will probably actually replay this over and over again, because sometimes I have the habit of getting into being too comfortable. And this, I think, will help so many people. And I think you can help so many people. How can people find you and reach out to you? Because I'm sure there's going to be questions.
I would love it if people would reach out to me. Well, first of all, you can listen to my podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. It's the Midlife Improvement Project. And my website is drpeggymalone.com. And the social I spend the most time on is Instagram. And my handle there is at Dr. Peggy Malone.
And I will put that all in the description and the show notes. Dr. Peggy, once again, thank you for having me on your podcast. Thank you for coming on mine. This has been amazing. And everybody, be healthy, be happy, and listen to Dr. Peggy's advice, because there are some really good nuggets on this one. Until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.